There's something magical about Maine's wilderness. It's beautiful. Towering pines, remote lakes, fog-covered trails that twist for miles. But it's also quiet. Too quiet sometimes. Because out here, people disappear. Some stories hint at simple tragedy. Others, they feel like something else entirely. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forest to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and supporting me. My name is Elise, and I'm your host. And I have quite a bit of housekeeping today. So I just found out that I can go onto Spotify and people comment on episodes. And I literally have been doing this for almost a year. And I'm just now finding out that's a feature on Spotify podcasts. Kind of silly. That's how much I don't know about doing all of this yet. But since I mostly listen to all my podcasts on Apple, I have never seen this feature. So I just spent this past week, an afternoon going through reading all your comments, the good, the bad. And I want to talk about it. And something I want to talk about is the negative reviews that I put on my podcast. Now, when I started this, I wanted it to be like, ha ha ha, people are saying there are too many bugs or the trees are too tall, which you do see a lot of those negative reviews about national parks and other outdoor spaces, which is kind of funny, or at least I think it is. And some of the reviews that I find, a lot of them are people complaining about the park infrastructure and how their time at the park absolutely sucked because of their inability to plan and research. Several people commented on Spotify and they said that it sounded condescending and it's not right. It's not right of me to tell people if they're right or wrong by reading their negative reviews. But that's not my intention. And I think the reason why I want to bring this to light is because I think it's funny that people leave negative reviews because honestly, I've been there, I've done that. I've gone on trips where I had the worst time because people that I was going with didn't research or plan and prepare. And also for me, I've also had bad trips because I didn't plan and prepare. And so whenever I read these reviews, I'm not trying to tell someone they were wrong or invalidate their experience. It's just I've been there, done that. And yeah, it happens. But for the most part, a simple Google search or looking at the national park website will help you plan better. That is why they're on the internet. I mean, if you want to plan a trip, you're going to spend your hard-earned money going and taking time off of work. And travel is a lot. It's expensive and it takes a lot of planning and preparation. And so basically, if you're going to do that, you should plan it. You should research it to get the most bang for your buck and really enjoy yourself. So I don't know, have I been too harsh in my negative reviews? Maybe, probably. But I also think that everyone's different and they take things differently. And so I can't really help how people take that. But that was not my intention. And just from experience, researching is gonna equip you better than just going and expecting it to be, sunshines and rainbows and nothing's going to go wrong. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And so I just have a question for you. I have a lot of listeners on Spotify. I will put a poll on today's episode if I can figure out how to do that. Should I keep doing the negative reviews? And maybe I do them and not give my input. I just read them. I don't know. But I want to hear from you guys, my listeners. So if you're an Apple listener or if you're on YouTube or Spotify, comment or vote on the poll and let me know, should I keep the negative reviews or should I let them go? I really want to take constructive criticism into consideration because I don't do this for myself. I do this to share information and this is not my full-time job. And I want to know what you guys think. So please let me know. Negative reviews, yes or no. And then another thing I wanted to talk about today is I know I should not do it. I should not read reviews. But I saw another review and I am all about negative reviews, as we all know. But this review kind of just stung a little bit. And this person said that I talk too slow. And, that's because I want everyone to understand what I'm saying and that I mispronounce words and it makes me sound like an amateur. Well, I just want to let you guys know a fun fact. I try my best on the words that I've never heard. And when someone mispronounces a word, that's because they've only read it and never heard it said. So if you're one of these people that gets annoyed with mispronunciations, you should look internally because that is not a cool thing to make fun of someone for because basically it's just rude. They have never heard that word. They are trying to sound it out. And I'm not saying that I have never heard any of these words, but I'm saying that I even put things into Google to teach me how to pronounce stuff. Or YouTube. I look up so many videos and I still pronounce things wrong. And it's not that I'm not trying or that I'm dumb. You can have things pronounced different ways. One might be the correct way, but the other one might also be acceptable. So I just want to let you guys know that ever since I learned that about when people mispronounce a word, it's because they have never heard it said and they're learning it by reading it. So not just for me, but be compassionate with other people online. And then also this person said I sounded like an amateur. Yes, I am an amateur. I do very little editing on this podcast. And that's mostly because I don't have time. This is not my full-time job. I work 40 hours a week, just like most of you. And I put these episodes out once a week and bonus content on Patreon. So no, I don't have time. I'm not going to sound like Crime Junkie, like Ashley Flowers. This is not a full-on production. I record at my desk in my house with my dog trying to interrupt me at every given chance. And I don't edit because guess what? That takes so much time. And I think it's okay to mess up every once in a while. Everyone makes mistakes. And it is very nerve-wracking to sit here and record and be thinking in your head that everything you do is going to be criticized. And I knew that before I started to release episodes, like, hey, I'm opening myself up for the world. And yeah, people are going to say mean and nasty things, and I have to be okay with that. But also, I don't know. I just wanted to talk with you guys about it. Basically, my message is there's so much hate in this world right now, and we need more kindness. And my mom used to tell me when I was a kid, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I've taken other reviews and reevaluated my content and pivoted. And let me go back and re-say that. Pivoted. And this review was just downright mean and for literally no reason. it sounded like this person just listened to one episode and decided she sucks, she doesn't edit, and I'm, whatever, which is fine. But also, if you have been around for a while, you know that I don't do this full time. This is a passion project. And I'm on a journey right now and really looking at things differently. And there's really no good point to being negative, right? That doesn't help anyone feel better. It doesn't help you yourself feel better. And so I'm just putting it out there that this is something I'm working on. And I think that more people should work on it as well. Obviously, I can't control people, but I just want to call attention to this review that said I sound like an amateur. And maybe that's because I am an amateur. So, anyways, let's speak kindness into the world. That's something that I've been really trying hard to do. And if you're an amateur at something like I am, I see you. We got this. Like it's not fun all the time, but we can do it. So that brings me to my dreams for the show. I would love to monetize and start running ads more often. And I would like to donate to nonprofits benefiting the outdoors and helping the disability community access the outdoors. My husband has cerebral palsy, and so we spend a lot of time outside, and I would love to give back to the community and help make the outdoors more accessible for so many Americans and to donate to conservation. So that is what I want to do with the show. I also have a Patreon for bonus content, but if you want to support me in a free way and it's super easy, leave me a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. It means literally so much to me, and it's a great way to support me on my goal for this podcast. You don't have to donate money. You don't have to join Patreon. I mean, it's great if you want to, but just leaving me a nice review honestly means more to me than the money, because I'm still new to this. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not perfect. And this is something that I do on top of my real life of working and taking care of a house, taking care of my family, and just trying to enjoy life. So anyways, I'm going to stop with that soapbox, and I'm going to let you know how my trip to Stanley, Idaho was. Okay, so I am recording after my trip to Idaho today. I recorded what you just heard before Idaho, so I'm just popping in here. Hopefully it works out. Idaho was amazing. We actually drove to Meridian, Boise area, stayed in a nice little Eagles Landing, super cute, walkable, lots of restaurants. The hotel was really nice. And then we drove from Boise to Stanley, and along the way we stopped at some hot springs. They were so hot, like almost too hot to even be in, but very, very beautiful. There's 7 to 10 different hot springs that you can stop, and they're just public land. They're on public land, so you just go and you just soak, and it was really amazing. So peaceful. I love wild hot springs. I think they're great. I love chatting with people in them. And yeah, that was awesome. And then our dog. So some of you know I have a corgi named Guster, and he goes by Gus. He rolled in either a dead animal or human shit while I was in the hot springs. So yeah, that was not pleasant. He smelled so bad. We were hiking back to the car, and you could smell him. And he's 4 feet below us because he's a corgi. He smelled so bad. So we just got home. I just gave him a bath. He was disgusting. Stanley was amazing. So much public land. And I'd never been to Stanley, Idaho before, but it's such a cute little town. And I was just romanticizing, oh my God, I could live in a place like this. Like when we visited Glacier, Washington, I loved it. Something about a very tiny little mountain town is so appealing to me. And then my husband was getting nervous because I'm like, I want to live somewhere like this. I would love that. I think I would really thrive in a community like that. And he's now scared. We don't have any plans to move out of Salt Lake anytime soon, but I loved Stanley. It was so cute. Lots of good restaurants, lots of good recreation. If you are a fisherman, if you like to fish, Stanley's your place. Rafting, they have it all. We did hiking. The trails that I would suggest are we did Lily Pond to Redfish Creek Waterfall. And for that hike, we had to take a shuttle, a boat, to the other side of the lake to the trailhead. And it was really fun. The boat ride was fun. The trail was pretty easy, a little bit of elevation, but led you to this beautiful mountain lake that you couldn't even see the water because they were just a bunch of lily pads. And then I did Fishhook Creek by myself, and it was about 5 miles. And both of these go into the Sawtooth Wilderness, so you have to have wilderness permits. And it was just so beautiful. I did post a few pictures on Morbid Outdoors podcast Instagram, but most of it will be on my personal one. Really good trip, really good trip. And we also went to a ghost town called Custer, and we panned for gold, like we found a little bit of gold. So that was really fun. And it was just a great trip. There was a thunderstorm with lightning and rain and hail. It was just beautiful. And we did 2 more hot springs on top of the first one that we did. It was too hot for my husband to get in, so he sat that one out, but we found some ones that we made a reservation for. Those were okay. They weren't my favorite. I prefer the ones that are just out in the wild. It was just a really great trip. Good hiking, pretty views, lots of really fun things to do. And yeah, I had a blast. It was probably the most perfect trip to take right before I go back to work. Actually, I'm at work today when you're listening to this. So really great. It was so fun. Highly recommend any hiking in and around Stanley. There are lots of lakes. I think I could have stayed there for a whole month and just, traipsed around and hiked and seen all the sights. So really, really cool time in Stanley. Idaho hiking is next level beautiful. This was not my first visit to Idaho, but man, it was beautiful. And while we were at the ghost town, I saw a sign that we were only 9 miles away from the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness, which is where a couple of episodes of this podcast have taken place of people going missing under bizarre circumstances and never being found. And this was super, super remote. So great week in Idaho. I loved it. Highly recommend checking out Stanley. Shout out to all the small businesses there. They were awesome. And yeah, I hope that you put Idaho on your next travel list. It is such an amazing and beautiful state. And there are lots of things to do if you love recreating outside. Now, I'm recording this almost a full week later from what you just heard. And I've been thinking about the negative reviews. And I've had another one within the last week that said, I talk too slow. And I already said the reason I do that is because I want you to understand. But I guess I could try and talk faster if this is so bothersome. And then I had just like a rhetorical question. So I don't think. Let me ask my question. My question is, do the people that always leave negative reviews, whether they be on podcasts, restaurants, businesses, national parks, do they ever review and have positive reviews? Like, I just don't see the people that do that leaving positive reviews because I don't know. I know there's like a saying or a stat out there that's like, oh, well, people leave more positive, like you get more positive reviews than negative and yada, yada, whatever. And there's some sort of ratio. I just wonder, like, for me personally, I don't leave negative reviews. Like, I don't find that helpful at all to whatever I'm reviewing. And it is very, very rare that I leave a negative review. I don't really leave reviews at all, but I do leave positive ones because the world needs more positivity. I'm trying to be a more positive person. And I think that, come on, you're going to leave a negative review. that doesn't make anyone feel good. And you might feel good for a second, but really it's doing a number on your psyche, and you're only ever going to see the negative. And as someone that's like a recovering negative Nancy, it is so hard to see the positive in things. And I know it. So I'm wondering from you, um, my listeners, do you think these people ever leave positive reviews? I'm just curious. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not my full-time job. I am a pediatric speech language pathologist first and a podcaster second. I am not an all-knowing being of how to pronounce everything and what everything means. And, some people take this way too seriously. I am here to, um, I'm here to entertain and to connect with you and to share stories that don't get enough spotlight. So I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about, all that stuff over the past week. And I want to know, do you still want me to read negative reviews, or is that something that doesn't really add anything to the show? I think some of them are hilarious. And all the ones that I read that I say, oh, well, this could have been avoided if people, I don't know, Googled, I was that person. And Stanley, I pulled up to Redfish Lake to go to a day use area and it said no dogs. Should I and could I have Googled that earlier? Yes, I had to drive back to the cabin and drop my dog off and go back. Did it ruin my entire trip? No. And it's like, hello, like, it's like, those are the reviews that just frustrate me on national parks because it's like a simple Google, but I'm not going to leave a review on Redfish Lake and be like, this is terrible. They don't allow dogs. This is awful. Because guess what? That was my fault. So I don't know, just a little food for thought. I hope I haven't been too rambly. I know that some people don't like it and some people love it. And I just realize I can't please everyone. So if you're here and you're a listener, thank you so much. Thank you for the good vibes, good thoughts, positive reviews. If you leave me a 5-star, I am forever grateful to you, because this is just a passion project that I hope to take bigger and help out the outdoors communities. So anyways, that's my Idaho update. Stanley was fantastic. I loved it. Beautiful, nice people. I just can't tell you how pretty the views were. It was absolutely amazing. So maybe add Stanley, Idaho to your next travel list. It was awesome. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoy this episode. I can't even remember what it is because I already recorded it, but thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you next week. And actually, I will be releasing a bonus episode this month, coming out of my home state of Arkansas, the Devil's Den murders. Devil's Den is a place that I grew up going to, hiking in, camping in, and I've even backpacked in it. So I am very familiar with the landscape, the layout, and the terrain, and the murders that happened there just last week in late July are terrible, terrible. And so I want to talk about it. So I'll be dropping that at some point this month, and school's about to start back for me. So so look forward to that. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And just try to be a little bit more positive today. If you're not, every negative thought that you have, just combat it with a positive one and cancel it out. So anyways, that's my advice to you today. I'll let you keep listening. Also for me, it is my first week back at school or work, whatever you want to call it. There are no students this week, but it's faculty meetings and lots of prep for the school year ahead. So if you work in education, I'm with you. I am with you. We can do this. We got this. It's hard, but the work we do is very meaningful and impactful for a lot of kids, whether you feel that way or not. It really is. So so I'm hoping to do a lot of pre-recording for the school year because it's hard to work and then more work outside of school. If you work in education, you know what I'm talking about. And then do even more work on top of that. I actually really enjoy this for the most part. It does get a little bit hard to manage on top of everything else, but I love putting episodes out there and connecting with you all, so I'm going to keep doing it. Maine's forests are vast, mysterious, and breathtaking, but also home to some of the most strange and unsettling disappearances in the United States. In this episode, we explore true stories of hikers, campers, and outdoorsmen who vanished into the wild. So let's dive into the chilling silence of Maine's deep woods, where not everyone comes back. The first inhabitants of the land now called Maine probably arrived around 12,000 years ago. And over the course of the land's history, several different indigenous tribes lived here. Several tribes still exist in Maine, including descendants of the original tribes that include the Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, and Penobscot tribes. Viking explorer Leif Erikson and his crew possibly sailed to the area in the year 1000. About 600 years later, British and French colonists established some of Maine's first permanent European settlements. And in 1652, southwestern Maine became part of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Now, as for Maine's name, some historians think that the name came from the nautical term mainland or the Main, which the colony's founders may have used to differentiate Maine from the islands off of its coasts. Or it might have been named after an English village of the same name. That's pretty common, but I can see either one being true. But we really don't know where Maine got its name from, although those are the two most popular theories. Maine has been given the nickname the Pine Tree State in honor of its many white pine trees, which are the biggest eastern conifers, or evergreen trees that bear cones. That's what conifer means, in the United States. So it is very, very forested here with a lot of those white pine trees. Here's your fun fact of the day. Maine is the biggest state in New England, and it's bordered by Canada in the north and east, and it's bordered by the Atlantic Ocean in the south and New Hampshire in the west. The land can be divided into 3 geographic areas. The first area is the coastal lowlands, and basically it's sandy beaches, salt marshes, bays, inlets, and thousands of coastal islands. So the islands started out as mountains, but the rising sea level during the last ice age put them underwater. A set of islands in northern Maine are now home to Acadia National Park. The eastern New England uplands are northwest of the coastal lowlands, and this region has fertile soil, lakes, streams, and the Longfellow Mountains. The White Mountains are in the northwest of the state, and they include Maine's highest point and Baxter State Park. There are lots of different animals that live in Maine, and their state animal is actually the moose. So tons of moose, lots of black bears, bobcats, deer, lots of really cool birds like bald eagles, ospreys, great gray owls, and it actually has more reptiles than you would think. There are lots of northern red belly snakes, smooth green snakes, and eastern garter snakes. And because it's a coastal state, there's also marine life, but we're not going to talk about marine life as much today because we're talking about the forests, which leads me into, here's another fun fact for you. About 90% of Maine is covered in forests, so it's no wonder that trees are among the Maine's most important natural resources. Some trees are used for their wood and others for their maple syrup. Now, when we talk about a state, we do fun facts. So here are some fun facts about Maine, some more fun facts, because you guys know I love facts. Author Stephen King was born in Maine, and his hometown of Bangor was the model for many of the towns in his scary stories. Other famous Mainers include author Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and poet Edna St. Vincent Millay. Maine lobster is one of the state's most famous foods. The state also serves up fiddleheads, which are basically furled fronds of ferns, and they're eaten like just any vegetable. We do eat these in Arkansas, but not as common as in Maine. And because of its rocky coastline, Maine is famous for lighthouses, and it actually has over 60 of them. The oldest lighthouse in Maine is the Portland Head Light in Cape Elizabeth. Maine seems like an absolutely idyllic and beautiful state, and I actually really would love to visit. I was planning a New England road trip this fall, but some different travels came up, so we postponed again. But that's okay. Maine hopefully isn't going anywhere because I want to experience New England and the apple cider donuts and the Maine lobster and the lighthouses sooner than later, but this year it's just not in the cards. So let's talk about missing people in Maine. Now, the following cases that I'm going to talk about, it's not an exhaustive list. And because Maine is coastal, when I was looking up missing persons, I want to estimate that like 70% of them were lost at sea, like a boat capsized and they were missing, or airplane crashes. Like there have been a lot of small airplane crashes and boat crashes in Maine. So I'm not really covering a lot of those because I think if you think about Occam's razor, what happened? Well, if a boat, starts to take on water and it turns over, those people probably perished. They probably drowned, but there's no way of really knowing because their remains / their bodies / they are still missing. So this is not an exhaustive list. These are just ones that I found very peculiar, and I tried not to do too many boat or airplane incidents on this episode. So the first case we're going to talk about today is a pretty famous one out of Maine, and it took place in August of 1975. Now, this involves Kurt Newton, a 4-year-old, going missing while camping with his family. Kurt was last seen at the remote Nantanas Point campground in Chain of Ponds, Maine, about 6 miles from the Canadian border. Now, he was last seen September 1st, 1975. I said August. There are different reports on if it was August 31st or September 1st. He was camping with his parents, his older sister, and 3 other families from their hometown of Manchester, Maine. Kurt was riding his big wheel tricycle near the family's campsite when he disappeared between 10 and 10:30 a.m. He has never been heard from again. That same morning, his tricycle was found at a dump site 0.8 of a mile from his family's campsite. Kurt's family stated that he was very shy at the time of his disappearance, and he did not like being separated from his mom even for a short amount of time. Kurt did not have a history of wandering away without permission, and his parents believe that he would not have gone into the woods alone. Of course, as soon as everyone realized that Kurt was missing, they immediately started searching and alerted authorities. An extensive search of the surrounding woods, which involved the use of bloodhounds and several military helicopters, and it's actually been described as the biggest search in Maine history. Well, that huge search, it didn't turn up any signs of Kurt. Now, this really stumped a lot of people, and police theorized that he became confused while trying to get back to the campsite and went in the wrong direction. The night after his disappearance, temperatures in the area dropped below freezing, and I think everybody knows that he could not have survived long if he had been out in the elements without shelter, with those temps that low. Kurt's parents speculated that someone abducted him and took him across the Canadian border into Quebec. French language missing child posters were distributed in Quebec, and basically that was just a theory, but it didn't really lead to anything at all. After years had passed and Kurt became old enough to be in school, his parents mailed posters with his picture to every school district in the United States. There were many reported sightings of him in the United States and Canada, but none of those could be substantiated, so they probably weren't Kurt. Kurt has never been found and is presumed to have been abducted. His case remains unsolved. If you want a more in-depth look at this case, Kylie, I forgot her last name, but Kylie Lowe, I think, she does Dark Down East, and she's got an episode about Kurt, and it is really good. So if you know anything about Kurt's disappearance, please contact the Maine State Police Major Crimes Unit at 207-624-7076, extension 9. Our next missing person also went missing in 1975 as well, just a few months after Kurt. Now, this person's name is Ludger Belanger, and I hope I'm saying that right. I've never seen that name before. But he was 25 at the time of his disappearance, and he lived in Washington, Maine. And he lived with his wife of 5 years, and he was actually a mechanic for heavy equipment. And his wife was a waitress, and they had 3 daughters, one of whom was only 4 months old at the time of his disappearance. So at 9 a.m. on November 25th, 1975, his wife and brother dropped him off half a mile from their home on Route 105 so that he could go deer hunting. He was carrying a .30-30 rifle, and he said he'd be back by noon, but he never returned, and they searched a lot, and nothing came from the searches, neither him nor his rifle. Authorities determined that Belanger had shot a deer and dragged it to the roadside, where he was picked up by a passing motorist. Now, he had a good home life, and his marriage was good, so people believe that he did not leave on his own accord. His wife thinks he was murdered, possibly over the deer he had shot. And authorities have 2 suspects in his disappearance. One of them died in an accident less than a year after Belanger went missing, and the other is still living in Maine. Now, this person supposedly confessed to the murder in 1977 to a friend. His friend basically told police that this is what happened. Basically, that him and the other guy were under the influence of drugs when they picked up Belanger and ultimately shot him to death in the back of their car. His friend reported their conversation to police, and authorities had examined the car shortly after Belanger's disappearance, and they did note that the interior had been washed and the rear seat was missing. There was a single deer hair stuck to the hood ornament. Now, both of Belanger's parents are dead, but all 8 of his siblings are still alive, as are his wife and children. His wife remarried after his disappearance, but remains active in the search for him. His family still hopes for answers in his disappearance and hope his body will be recovered. His case remains unsolved. I'm pretty sure that those 2 men are the ones that are responsible for his disappearance and presumed murder. And I think that is so hard for families and law enforcement when they know who did it, but there's just not enough evidence to convict. And I can't imagine how maddening and soul-crushing that would be. This happened a very long time ago, and I'm hoping at some point in time his family gets justice for him. June 1st, 1978, 35-year-old Michael Arthur Overman, well, he liked to hike in the woods, and he was on Duck Island in Maine when he went missing. His family did an extensive search back then, but he was never found. He usually wore jeans, hiking boots, or tennis shoes, and he went for a hike and just never came back. And there's really nothing more to this than that's all the information that anyone knows. November 15th, 1979. Eugene Cross Jr., who was 41 at the time, he was from or went missing out of Fryeburg, Maine. Now, the only information about his case that I could find is, quote, Eugene went hunting with a friend and never came out of the woods. That's all. That sounds suspicious as hell to me. Sounds like murder, but Stranger things have happened, but he is still missing and his body has not been found. Our next case is actually pretty popular, I think, because I've heard of it before. And it happened in May of 1983. A woman named Jessie Hoover, she went missing near Millinocket, Maine. She was 53 at the time of her disappearance, and she was last seen on May 20th, 1983 at Baxter State Park headquarters. She had traveled from Texas to Maine to hike the Appalachian Trail, and we all know that it goes from Maine down to Georgia. Now, because she wasn't from this area and had never hiked over here, she was very unfamiliar with this terrain, and she had no particular knowledge of hiking or any special equipment with her. They deemed she probably didn't have more than $20 with her in cash because she planned to wire home for money and pick up prescriptions as she passed through the towns on the way. So she was unprepared, did not plan, did not do her research, and basically was going to hike this super, super long trail without any preparation. And I just, I know that Cheryl Strayed popularized this in more recent years after her book came out, but people really do this and it doesn't always end in a good way, just like Jessie's story. Jessie had planned to climb Mount Katahdin on May 20th, but park rangers refused to permit it because she basically was unprepared and they knew that. She was last seen at the trailhead of the 100-mile wilderness, which is the most remote stretch of the AT. Although hikers are advised to carry 8 to 10 days worth of food through this area, all Jessie had was some beef jerky. Temperatures in the area reached a high of 72 during the day, but fell to around 30 degrees at night, and on top of that, it was raining. Jessie could have developed hypothermia under these conditions, and I find that very likely. Now, her sister reported her missing on July 11th, almost 2 months after she was last seen. An extensive search of the area turned up no sign of her, and no other hikers remembered having seen her. And Jessie's case still remains unsolved. If you want to listen to a good episode, I think Locations Unknown covered her case in a lot more depth, and so you can go listen to that episode. But basically, she was unprepared and set off and has never been seen since. November 2nd, 1987. 41-year-old Peter Browning Dean was last seen in Sullivan, Maine. Now, Peter was visiting his hunting cabin on Tunk Lake, and he was by himself. He loaded up a canoe with hunting supplies, and the canoe and the supplies were found floating in the lake, but Pete was never seen again. I don't know. Did he fake his disappearance, or did someone do something to him? These cases are old. There's not a lot online about these cases, and so that's why some of these summaries are very short. But basically, whoever found his canoe and supplies could not locate Pete, and I'm pretty sure they would have looked in the lake, but they never found him, and he's still missing. Then in November 1997, 70-year-old Robert D. Smith went missing near Garfield Plantation, Maine. Now, Robert and his wife were out hunting, and Robert failed to meet back up with her after separating in the woods. A search was obviously conducted until heavy snow fell several days later, and Robert has never been located. Another missing persons case that's pretty popular is the disappearance of Jeremy Theodore Alex. Now, this happened in April 2004, and Jeremy was 28 at the time of his disappearance. He was visiting his girlfriend on the morning of April 24th, 2004. Now, he was moving items to their new home on Harbor Road in Northport, Maine that day. And at 5:20 p.m., one of his former high school teachers, who lives on Pound Hill Road near Bluff Road behind Jeff's Marine, She saw him come running out of the woods near her home. The location is about a mile and a half from, his new home that he was moving stuff into. Find it interesting that a former high school teacher recognized him because this would have been about 10 years after he graduated, and people look a lot different 10 years after high school. So she said that he was acting paranoid and erratic and appeared to be hallucinating. He told her that bad guys were trying to hurt him. Her husband tried to get Alex to remain at the scene while she called the police, but he ran away before authorities could arrive. Shortly afterwards, a motorist saw him crossing Route 1. He has never been heard from again. Jeremy's van was found the next day in a small parking area off of Pound Hill Road on a property belonging to the Waldo County Humane Society. His keys and cell phone were inside the vehicle, but there was no sign of Jeremy. And I said Alex earlier, that's his last name. Several searches of the area failed to turn up any evidence as to his whereabouts. And then, in September 2004, a contractor in Jackson, Maine, about 45 minutes away from Northport, reported seeing a man who matched Jeremy's description. He says he was working on a house when the man, who had a sweater tied around his waist, came out of the woods. The man was acting strangely, was not speaking, and did not seem to understand anything spoken to him. The contractor offered him food, but the man refused. Now, another person living nearby says he also saw the unidentified man, and he also believes it was Jeremy. The second witness says that the man came to his garage but would not answer questions and eventually walked away after being told to leave. These sightings have not been confirmed but are considered credible. Jeremy's parents say that he has never left without warning before, and they believe he may have met foul play. They think that maybe someone was chasing him. They said he had the skills to survive alone in the woods if he had to. Jeremy was employed as a freelance gardener in 2004. He enjoys skateboarding, reading, and playing the guitar, and his case remains unsolved. He was acting erratically and seemed like he was running from someone or something, and it's been 21 years, and he's never been seen since. A more recent case happened just a few years ago in 2021. 16-year-old Paul Colucci, he was at Baxter State Park in Maine where Jesse Hoover disappeared, and Paul had made a 2-night reservation for Wrestle Pond Campground at the Tongue Pond Gate in Baxter State Park. And he made this reservation at 9:45 on September 8th, 2021. Paul then traveled to park his vehicle at the Roaring Brook Campground. He actually talked with the campground ranger and then headed out to the trail, which would take him to Wrestle Pond. And this happened between 10:30 and 11 a.m. And this was the last time anyone saw Paul Colucci ever, and he is still missing. And in September, it will be how many years? 4 years since his disappearance, and there really haven't been any leads or updates since then. So my question is, what is happening in Maine's forests? Now, they are some of the most beautiful in the country. They're vast, remote, and deeply peaceful, but peace can be deceiving. These woods have kept secrets for decades. People vanish here, and while some are found too late, many never are. So what happened to them? Did they lose the trail? Get turned around in the thick undergrowth? Or did something or someone find them first? Well, the truth is, we don't always get answers. In wilderness that deep, that quiet, time moves differently. And when you're alone out there, it doesn't take much to disappear. If you take anything from these stories, let it be this: the forest deserves respect. Tell someone where you're going. Bring more than you think you'll need. And remember, sometimes nature isn't just background noise. Sometimes it watches back. Thanks for joining me on this journey through Maine's haunted trails. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and as always, stay on the path. Recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.